It is over.
You have not seen what I have seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
You know, there's a reason we temper swords and value experience. Yet Amazon Prime's Rings of Power hired two amateur imitators to reverse engineer Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings cinematic style through the lens of a CW production. Take all the grand spectacle, practical effects, and real sets, they got drowned out by a shallow script and one-noted characters. And the cast was overshadowed by the true leads of diversity, identity politics, racism, and bullying. And you know the secret? To adapt Tolkien is simple. It requires love and respect in order to fashion it into something precious. Prime has failed. This series is not Tolkien, and the Fellowship has been vindicated. Welcome, Slayer Nation. It's so exciting to share my initial thoughts with you today, my friends. We were right. Amazon Prime tried to disguise greed as caring and to transform disrespect into dollars, but it's not going to happen. See, I'm going to break this down, just give you a couple of my thoughts before I create a new video detailing the first two episodes in more depth. But right now, one thing I'm going to say is this series was not made for the big screen. Not at all. You could see the CGI halo effect around the actors whenever it was used. Worse than that, you could see the makeup on most of the cast. I mean, what were they thinking? And we talk about the lore, the mythological masterpiece. Well, Amazon sentenced it to solitary confinement where I guess they thought they'd torture it for the next 5 years. But that's not going to happen if we have anything to say about it. And for the cast, I've never met a more unlikable bunch. Now, there were two people who stood out for me. That was Elrond and Durin. My only problem with Elrond, the future leader of the last alliance of men and elves, is that Prime kept winking at the audience every time he was on screen that he was gay. We know that's not how Tolkien wrote him. And when it comes to Galadriel, well, Galadriel has certainly earned her name. She only has two modes. She either comes across as a maxi-pad Mary Sue who does everything perfect, or a kickball Karen who's always arrogant and stubborn, shouting at the referee. Who wants to put up with that? The rest of it plodded through the series. But you know what's worse is that Prime paid millions to Entertainment Weekly in order to advertise. You remember all those videos that I did sharing the commercials, the parodies that we made? This was Entertainment Weekly trying to boost the series up into the stratosphere. You know what? They betrayed Amazon by telling the truth. And we're going to get into that in a second. But before we do, I want to share with you a couple of the heroes and heroines who've decided to light the beacon, sound the horns, and are holding the line. You got CJ, pause this to cancel my Prime membership. Harold, ready to unsub to Amazon on September 1st. Heathen Gypsy said, doing my part to help sink this series by not watching it. And James Rees says, if they had stuck to the stories, I would have watched this stuff religiously. But I will never watch even one episode of this trash. Now, see, all those people, they love the legendarium, and they've stood up to defend Tolkien's gift that he bequeathed to the world. And if you feel like you want to do the same, push that subscribe button down below. Help us grow the Fellowship and get our voice out there so it can be heard by everyone. The Lord of the Rings of Power review. Amazon's prequel is kind of a catastrophe. Of course it is. How many trailers, teasers, interviews, and clips have we seen since February? You know one thing that happened? We learned nothing about the story. Well, let me tell you, after the first two episodes, there's nothing more to it. There still is no story. There are ways to do a prequel, and The Lord of the Rings of Power does them all wrong. It takes 6 or 7 things everyone remembers from the famous movie trilogy, adds a water tank, makes nobody fun, teases mysteries that aren't mysteries, and sends the best characters on a pointless detour. The latter is Uber Elf Galadriel, Morfydd Clark, who spends the premiere telling people to worry about Sauron. In response, people tell her to not worry about Sauron. That's 1 hour down, 7 to go this season. Sound like $1 billion yet? You know, one thing about this 2 episodes is that it felt almost cheap, flashy, and gaudy. And the dialects, don't even get me started. They sounded like fingernails on a chalkboard. But this series is a special catastrophe of ruined potential, sacrificing a glorious universe's limitless possibilities at the altar of tried and true blockbuster desperation. I couldn't have put it better myself. If any of this gets that fire lit in your belly, then you need to get out there, stand up, lead by example, and let them hear you roar. We never bow down, we never bend the knee. Firmly, defiant, step up, stand tall, and get busy living your best life now, always forward.